What's up, everybody? Mishaal
Hey,
Rahman is in
hey,
the
I'm back.
house.
I am, back after quite an eventful few days. One of the most
Yeah.
unique tech events I've ever been to on Friday from Samsung. Certainly was not expecting whatever,
Whatever
yeah,
that
the kind of
was.
event they held. I'll tell you all in more detail later, but
Yes.
yeah, I was definitely in for an experience.
Cool. I can't wait. We've got some fun stuff to talk about. If my connectivity is a little wonky, apologies. It's two things. One, it's I had to reroute my internet up here shortly before the show. Sometimes I do that like 10 minutes prior to the show so everything works its kinks out, and I didn't do that today, so my apologies. And two, we have an interview that we're going to be playing in today's show, and I failed to download it to my laptop. So I'm downloading it right now, so it's occupying a lot of bandwidth. So my apologies if I break up. If I do, that's why. And if I do break up, don't worry, we'll get back together.
Mhm.
It's not permanent, it's temporary. Yeah, Wizardling, I believe Flo is going to be on the show.
Yeah, she should be
That
joining us. I don't
yeah,
know where she is right now.
that was the original plan. And if she had something come up, then that's fine too, and we'll be
Yep.
all good. We will rock and roll regardless.
I
Rock and roll
guess as
party
we
time.
wait, I will say for our early listeners right now, I have been playing around with the new Androidify app. I don't know if you heard about it. Google announced it during I/O. This app basically uses generative AI. Oh, cool. Came up with it. Kind of,
Hey.
it uses generative AI. It uses Gemini 2.0 Flash and a couple of their other models to basically take either your prompt or your image input, and then you can just generate a custom bot out of it. And the only problem with this app is you have to compile it yourself because it uses Google's Vertex AI SDK. So like you have to provide your own API key. So I'm not going to be like sharing the APK that I made, but you can go to their GitHub and compile it yourself. Because if I were to share it with everyone publicly, then I would be paying for you guys using their their API. So yeah, hopefully Google releases this app publicly for everyone to use because I think it'd be really fun for everyone to make their own custom bot and then maybe get some new profile pictures out of it. I'm still experimenting with it. You know, generative AI image making is still very finicky and wonky. And they said that the model that's in the app right now is like just a generic Gemini 2.0 Flash image model, but that they're making like a custom version of the model that's specifically trained on generating bots. So hopefully that turns out pretty well.
Nice. Are you using that app that Google has to run models locally? Is that part of what
No,
that
it's not
is?
local. It's not local. That's why,
Oh, got it.
yeah, that's why if I were to share this, I'd be running up a bill because everyone would be charging it using
Oh,
my API key.
that's so cool. Are you gonna do a video about that or an article? You're probably
I
gonna
don't
do
know.
it.
I mean, like they released it like 2 weeks ago at I/O. Like I don't know if anyone's bothered to do anything with it. I still need to find a good prompt and like a good photo that'll actually give me like a serviceable image. Because like this one right now, you can kind of see it generated a bot. Like look at the Android in the middle. It's like it's missing its arms, like a short stubby arms to the sides, right?
Oops.
Oops.
Well, you know
Like it
what?
got everything
No.
else, the smart one. It didn't get the skin tone that I asked it to do.
Yeah.
But it's getting closer. Maybe just a couple of more changes, it'll get something. It'll get
Look,
it right.
it represents all different types of Android bots. The ones with arms, the ones without arms. Every Android bot is welcome. That's pretty rad.
Yeah.
I love that. Super cool. And so is the plan that like eventually that will be turned into a kind of wider release app and this is
I
just
don't
early
know.
testing?
Like I asked Google, and like they were kind of vague about it in their announcements. Like, oh, we plan on releasing this. Like they didn't say as an app through Google Play specifically. They just said like releasing it, and their release at Google I/O was just the source code and like documentation, and like it felt more like a sample app, like a demo on how to use these new APIs that Google talked about. So I don't know. We'll see.
Sweet. Sweet. Yes, so we are chatting with Flo. Flo will be here Momentarily. I am setting up a few neat things that we can show off today. No, Sean, you are correct, sir. No Ron, no Win. Yes, Flo. Yes, Mishaal. Yes, Jason.
Ron and Win are here with us in spirit.
That's right.
I don't know where they actually physically are, though.
Yeah, neither do I. But you know what? They can be wherever they want to be. Yeah, I can't remember. But like I said, we do have an interview. So about midway through, we're going to have an interview that we played in today's show with Jeff Howard, who is VP of Consumer Devices at AT&T. And so Ron is on the show because he was part of that interview with me yesterday. And yeah, it was a really cool conversation, I have to say. You know, with in a conversation like that, the risk is let's not go too salesy. Let's not get too like kind of company line speak, you know, like, well, at AT&T, we believe blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Because that stuff kind of like you've heard that a million times. I saw it as an opportunity to kind of ask some questions that were, I don't know, that kind of come up around carriers, particularly in the US. And I don't know, kind of approach it from that perspective. And I think it turned out pretty darn good. So
well, this will be since I wasn't on this interview, this will be my first time listening to it with the rest of y'all.
Right. You get to experience it along with everyone else. Let me make sure I have that loaded and that it all comes up okay. Yes, it does. Yay. It is around 27-ish minutes. So I'm going to put that in here so we know. 27 minutes. And yeah, this is a pre-recorded one, Pack and W. The interview is. We recorded it yesterday. So he was not available for the live. Okay, well, once Flo gets here, Flo did say we can kind of split stories up, we feel. If there's anything, yeah, like I'm looking like I really don't have a whole lot to split up because I'm doing the Edge first look.
The Edge.
The Edge. That's right.
My title on my restream is a bit long, but I combined two different stories. I said the title on my extreme is "Can Samsung give Perplexity the edge over Google?"
Ooh, I like that. You squished together a bunch of things.
Yeah.
In one paste, in one combined paste. I like it. Yeah, I mean, you know, it wasn't by design, but today's show just really ended up being very Samsung-y. You know, the interview, the first look, the beta program, Perplexity. So Samsung fans out there, you'll be very happy because there's lots of Samsung tonight. We got you back. Oh, so yeah, what else is new? I will mention it during the show at some point, but if you like going back in time, like Back to the Future of Android, then I did for my channel a thing on the Nexus 1. Kind of like a look back. And you know, I'm trying new things because I've done a lot of reviews like of current phones. I don't have a lot of stuff on my channel that's like evergreen. And so I want to start playing around with that. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do some, like I have like a ton of old devices just hanging out. And like I love, you know, and a lot of memories built around these things because like we've been doing this podcast for so dang long. So it's kind of a cool opportunity for me to re-explore.
That live wallpaper brings back so many memories.
Oh, I know. Totally. And like when you touch different
Yeah.
parts of it, the lasers would kind of sprout from that particular area.
I think you can find like someone like ported or recreated it and released it on the Google Play Store. Do you
Oh,
remember that
yeah, I'm
one
sure.
hollow live wallpaper that's like the bubbles? It's like the
Yes.
bubbles in
Yep.
space.
Hmm.
I found like a recreated version of that recently, and everyone's asking me, "Oh, where'd you get that live wallpaper? Where'd you get that live wallpaper?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's here. Some guy released it as an open source app."
Of course they did. Yeah. Anyways, it was a lot of fun. Lots of fun putting that together. So if you haven't checked it out, check it out. And we'll see if my experiment works. I will say though, like having a channel and having a video that does like incredibly well, like that hollow video, just like quickly
The
became my
Material 3.
sorry, not hollow, yeah, the Material 3 ended up being my highest video, period, hands down. It's like 50K right now, which is more than any other video I've had, and that's great when that happens. But then it like
It sets the bar,
taints
and
your
it's like
perspective. You're like,
you're like,
oh,
"Oh, I gotta reach that number again."
I'm only at 600 after a day on my new video. Like, meanwhile, there are a lot of people that are like, oh, 600? I'd love to have 600. It's all
Yeah,
perspective.
perspective.
Yeah, totally. It's interesting. This whole game is interesting. Learning a lot. All right. What else you got, chat room, while we're waiting? Oh, this is probably a good time to say af.showbot.tv. Throughout the show, you can add titles ideas. And, the more the merrier, because the more titles we have, that come up throughout the show, I don't know, the easier it is for us to pick one at the end of the episode. And it's always nice when we have a bunch of creative titles in there. So remember that. af.showbot.tv. Go there and you can place your votes throughout the
I guess
show.
we could also remind people that if they're a patron, they can submit stories on the Discord for us to
That's
talk
a
about
good point. Yeah, we'll probably mention that during as
during the
well. But
patron segment. Yeah.
that's a really good point. Patreon.com/Android Faithful. We would love to include stories that you all care about. And that's one way that you can do it is we'll have a post that goes up, I think, the day after the new episode for the following week. And patrons are able to go in there and add links or headlines or whatever so that we can consider those stories. So do that, please. And then we can get you in the rundown, get you in the show. Okay. God, I'm realizing I need a fan up here now. It's officially that time, that season where I get back here and the light's on and it starts to get really warm.
What's the weather like in your area?
It's actually not bad. Right now it's like 75 degrees. It's really nice outside. It's just this room.
Okay.
This room is upstairs and we don't
Yeah.
have AC. And so any of the heat that builds up throughout the day ends up in these top 3 rooms. And it can just get muggy in here if I don't have a fan running.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm sure it was much warmer in Houston.
Well, I mean, that's what AC's for.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, so Petaluma is so, like, historically speaking, I would say, like, we moved here in 2010 or 2011. I can't remember which year. And back then, like, I would hardly ever run into someone who was like, oh, I have AC. It just wasn't a thing that you needed here because we're close enough to the bay, to the ocean, like half an hour from the ocean. And there's this, like, ocean breeze that comes in at like 4 p.m. on into the evening most days during the summer that just cools it down immediately. And I think in the time that I've lived here, things have warmed up a little bit more. And so that has kind of shifted. And so now I know a lot more people that are getting AC because it's just getting warmer here. But yeah, in Houston, you kind of can't exist without AC, right? Or you can, but you just be absolutely miserable.
No, I don't think you can survive without AC. Not in the summers that we get here.
Yeah, no, totally. Oh,
No. Just post the link in the chat.
yeah.
And then we can invite her later.
Didn't we have the link in the doc? I guess we didn't, but that's okay.
Yeah, we can figure that out. Yeah,
I'm
just
just trying to
we get the
find it.
link.
There we go. Oh, you already did it. Okay, great. Here, I will put in template. Live. There we go. It's now part of the template going forward. Boom. Hello.
Hello. I'm a little discombobulated. I didn't put my
right.
name in anything.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We got you. We
Okay.
got you. We'll set things up like we're pitching at a baseball game, and you just come up to the plate with your bat and you knock it out of the park.
Okay.
If that helps you be any less discombobulated.
Yeah. Do you guys want me to take like a couple stories?
There's not that many stories, honestly. But if you want to,
Okay.
like,
Tonight's a little weird.
I'm also happy to be the peanut gallery.
Yeah.
Like, I'm also happy to be
I
that.
mean,
It's
yeah,
fine.
tonight's a little weird because I got the first look that's going to occupy much of the hardware, and then we've got the
Okay.
interview, and yeah, don't worry about it, Flo. It's all good. We'll just kind of set things up, and
Then
then
I will
we all
not.
discuss.
Then I will not worry about it. I
and,
was
yeah, we
worried
can-
about it, just to be honest. But
Well, ease your worry. No worries, and instead replace your worries with be happies.
all
happy
right.
now. Do, 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 do. Would it make you happier if
Flo,
I sang to you?
They could see you.
Wait, what? No.
Nothing. I'm just.
By the way, like, I haven't touched any like phone, and I don't know that I've had the desire to, but we could talk about that later. Maybe. Actually, no, let's not, because then I'm gonna manifest something I don't want to.
Oh, okay.
I need work, so I would like to keep writing about phones.
You know, sometimes phone.
Oh, am I really
touching
loud?
comes and goes in this industry. That sounds kind of weird.
Am I?
But it's true.
Somebody on YouTube says I'm really
You
loud.
are, for me at least, you're louder than Jason.
Okay.
Oh,
Pretty loud.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, then is it Flo is loud or I am quiet?
No, Flo's loud.
Okay, let me try now. What about now? Still loud?
That
sounds better.
A little
Just
better.
turning down my gain. There we
Yeah,
go.
that sounds better.
Just turn down.
Before you were kind of cracking, but now it sounds pretty good now.
I think my gain was up a little too high.
Okay, don't touch it. I think you're good now.
Twitch says the volume balance seems odd.
Oh, does it have like an AI that tells you that, or is there somebody in Twitch?
No, just somebody on
someone on Twitch.
I was like, wow, Twitch has like an AI agent telling you to correct your audio. I wouldn't be surprised.
Gain, recognize gain. Good one, cousin.
Yeah. Cue my standard complaining and moaning about StreamYard's audio capabilities. Or not, because I've said it a million times already. Cool. Well, should we do this?
Let's do a show.
Okay. Yeah, I'm much better volume-wise is the feedback that I got.
Okay.
So we're doing pre-show? Doing pre-show banter?
I mean, well, that's what we've been doing.
We've been doing that for the past 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. I think we've burned through pre-show banter.
Okay.
And we are ready.
All right, we're good.
Banter.
We can do this. We can do this.
All right, give me one more second. Doop-a-doo. Okay. All right. I am going to do the top of the show, then open up to Mishaal, then open up to Flo, and then we jump in, and we should be good to go. So, Flo, let me remove you from the stage. Mishaal, let me remove you from the stage. We do not have an ad. Clinton, you said I am soft. I don't know if that's still... Okay, no, it's all much better. Okay, never mind. Okay. I think we are good to go. Okay. Cousin of Josh saying I'm a little lower. Let me adjust that. Hopefully that is a little better. Is that better? You can see, you can never tell. This is the thing. Okay. All right. I'm going to assume that. And then as we go along, if you guys have any corrections or whatever, just let us know. All right. Stand by. I'm going to pull up the overlay that we love to see. And I'm going to get my intro music ready. And we are going to do a show. Here we go. everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Android Faithful, your weekly source for the latest news, hardware, and apps for the world of Android. And we have what appears to be a little bit of a Samsung-heavy episode, so that should make some of you happy. I'm one of your hosts, Jason Howell.
I'm another host for tonight, Mishaal Rahman.
And you are?
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, I'm
That's all you
Florence
need to
Ion.
say.
I'm Florence Ion. Hello, I'm Florence Ion. I was waving at the camera very enthusiastically for the audio listeners.
Oh, okay, good. They heard your eyeballs.
They might have heard like a
Staring
little
at them.
delay. Or it's like, was there some lag? What's going on?
Yeah, I know. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised. There's been some ghosts in the machine of StreamYard the last couple of days. So be forewarned. Strange things could happen at the Circle K. But it is good to see you, Flo. It's good to have you back, Mishaal. We obviously do not have Mr. Ron Richards. We do not have Miss Huyen Tuat Dao. It is the three of us. This is kind of the beauty of like our kind of rotation, is that it's like a new recipe every single week. I love it.
That's right. It's a little mix of my unhingedness and
Yes.
Shawl's wealth of knowledge.
Yes.
And Jason's ability to keep us engaged for the entire hour and change.
We got a lot to talk about this week. We've got an interview that actually I said Ron isn't here. He is by way of a pre-recorded interview. So you will get some time.
We love a pre-recorded.
A little bit later, spoke with Jeff Howard from AT&T. He kind of leads the devices here in the U.S. at AT&T, and we saw it as an opportunity to kind of ask some carrier-focused questions about how that's evolved and transformed in the past 10 years for Android, because things have changed a lot. And then we got a lot of Samsung and other things, but lots of Samsung. So
A lot of Samsung.
a lot of Samsung, but not too much. A lot, but not too much. So,
There's also a lot of Google.
Just
a lot of Pixel 10.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. Great stuff coming your way. Just real quick, want to throw out there that our patrons are amazing. They drive much of what we do each and every week. Patreon.com/AndroidFaithful. You get lots of cool stuff if you are a patron, including our amazing After Hours, which we will be doing another one today. It's like an extra half show just for patrons. And I gotta say, I think it's pretty awesome. So patreon.com/AndroidFaithful. Also, just a reminder, if you are a patron, you can suggest stories for us to talk about on this show, both the show and After Hours. You just comment on the Patreon post that goes up the day after each new episode for the following week. And so that's one of your many perks. So we would love to hear from you what you want to hear us talk about. So you're involved, and we can all sing and dance and be merry.
Don't forget about the free perk you get when you sign up at AndroidFaithful.com.
Tell me all about. Sorry, my voice is going away. Tell me all about it. You speak, because I apparently can't.
Yes, the Android Faithful newsletter is a new weekly newsletter that goes out every Friday. I write it, so you can expect it's gonna be something I'm writing. Lately, I've been writing about Android, so you can expect will be that in your inbox. Also, I like to collect some other interesting links about Android from the blogosphere during the week. So it's just like think of it as a nice way to sort of end cap your week of green.
The week of green. I feel like that's
very strong.
That's like
some very strong opinions in there too.
Love it.
Uh-oh.
Love it.
Yes, I do have strong opinions.
No, I mean, it's a good thing. It's a good thing to hear people be a little opinionated sometimes,
Yeah.
A lot of my stuff, I don't really insert my opinion into much stuff. So I appreciate reading other people's perspectives.
Yeah, a lot of the reporting that you do, Mishaal, is like very factual. It's like, I found this thing. This thing does this.
Okay, what I do is also factual. Thank you.
No. I'm not saying that it's not, but I think you do a good job of finding the fact and then also sharing like how you feel about it.
It's very factual. It's very factual. I get.
Do Android developers dig AI? Do they? Yes or no, Flo?
I'm going to be honest with you that I'm afraid to answer this question, and it's because a couple of conversations that I've had with developers. Let's talk about this just for a quick second. But the couple of conversations that I've had with developers, they have elicited quotes that I cannot publish because most of
Oh,
it is expletives. There's a lot
wow.
of there's a lot of there's a lot of you know, when people go through like romantic breakups and everything is just like really every little thing that happens afterward is just like really heavy. I
Mm-hmm.
kind of feel like developers have been going through that with Google, but like
Ooh.
since since Ruth Porat changed the whole trajectory of how the company spends its money. So
Wow.
yeah,
Okay. So they're feeling
yeah,
a little sidetracked or a little
yeah.
backburnered.
I mean, think about it. Like
Yeah.
you started life in as a hippie, you know, and then you went to work for the man. Like that's very,
Mm,
you
yeah.
know.
Do
So I
no
can
evil
imagine the
quickly
whiplash is
transformed
difficult.
into do all AI.
Yes, yes. But on the other
Uh,
hand, there are people who are like, well, now I have a bunch of tools that are just going to make writing apps faster, and I try to kind of use my own example in the newsletter last week about how I apply it to writing because I've been using AI a
mm,
lot. I've also been using it, by the way, to fix up my website.
okay. Yeah, I've heard it's good for
It's
that. I
like
have not
very
used
nice
it
and
for that.
easy. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it just
That's its
fixes
style.
fixes a style sheet incident in seconds. It's just like, oh, you need help with this? Okay, I got you.
Well, that sounds dreamy.
Yep.
I know.
Yeah, love that.
So
Sweet.
the
Well,
duality. AI.
everybody should check out your amazing work with the newsletter, and thank you so much for doing that because that's awesome. I love that we have a rockin' newsletter on the site.
It's very fun to have a
Part of the
platform
family.
from which I can rant.
Yes, love it. Rant more, including today. I'm sure we'll find opportunities to rant. Why don't we dive into the news, the first of many Samsung stories?
Samsung. So, those of you with a Samsung phone, which I'm assuming there's probably a lot of you in our like reader base and listener base, might be overjoyed to learn that Samsung won't be delaying the release of their One UI 8 update. Kind of like how the One UI 7 update took forever to roll out. You know, we pretty
Mm-hmm.
much only got it for a lot of devices kind of in April, even though Google released Android 15 in October last year for Pixel phones. This time, Samsung has started rolling out a One UI beta program already for the S25 series, and they announced that the stable release will be coming first to their upcoming foldables, presumably the Z Flip 7 and the Z Fold 7 that are launching this summer, and then they'll be rolling out shortly after to other devices. In terms of features, like there's not going to be a big UI overhaul like they kind of did with One UI 7, but there are a lot of nice quality of life updates. Like I said, there's going to be improvements to the Now Bar and Now Brief feature that make it more personalized. They're improving security by improving Samsung Knox Vault. They are also improving Quick Share so that you can tap on the Quick Settings tile to quickly initiate file transfer. They are bringing the Auracast feature more to the forefront, so you don't have to dive through a whole bunch of settings to start broadcasting your audio or listening to other audio broadcasts. The Reminder app will now allow you to manage all your reminders in one place, and it's getting a new UI. It's also allowing you to share your to-do list. There's also a new multitasking upgrade that allows you to split apps 90/10. This is actually something that Google's been working on in Android 16. It seems to be borrowed straight from OnePlus and their Open Canvas feature. There's a whole bunch of other smaller changes that this Droid Life article goes over. So if you have a Samsung phone and you're looking forward to the One UI 8 update, I highly recommend you go through and like see all of these tiny changes that are going to add up hopefully to an improved experience once the update rolls out for your device.
When I almost said Samsung, when Samsung,
Fine.
when Samsung does an update like this, is it often that like the early kind of receipts through beta as far as like what the features are isn't a full like indication of what the major features will be when it finally rolls out, or is it pretty complete
Oh yeah,
when it's beta?
no. Their betas tend to be actually pretty major in terms of like from each release. Like one beta will have a lot of features. The next beta will actually include a lot more features. Like their change logs are like bless Samsung for actually providing proper detailed change logs. They tend to be really comprehensive and really long, but even then they still miss out and they don't include every single detail. And you only find that out from bloggers and YouTubers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there'll definitely be a lot more changes coming in the upcoming One UI 8 beta releases, and also with the launch of the new devices, because there are going to be some features that they're not going to actually release until their new devices have been announced.
Yeah. And starting the betas on the foldables, not the
Well, no,
flat.
the beta is already available for the S25 series, but the stable release will debut on their
I
upcoming
see. Oh, I
foldables.
get it. I understand. Okay. All right. Flo, you used to manage the worldwide Samsung fan club. I'm just kidding. I know that was a running joke with All About Android. I could never actually tell, by the way, if you like appreciated that joke or if you absolutely hated it. So if you hated
You
it,
know
I'm
what?
sorry.
You know what? Let's think about it like cars, for instance, right? Like I'm having, as you go through life, you maybe change the kind of car you're driving. And so as I've been going through life and growing, I've been changing the kind of phone I'm using.
Yes.
The Galaxy S6 and Galaxy S7, like that era of Samsung was a really beautiful thing to be a part of. And that's why
Ah,
my conviction was so big to be there.
yeah.
But since then,
What
I
did they
just haven't
change?
connected. It's, I haven't connected with a Samsung phone. I've connected with the foldables, most definitely, but not like the Ultra is great. Gosh, don't get me wrong. It does like so many great things. It does some things a little bit
Almost too many
better than
great
even the
things.
Pixel 9 Pro. But it's not a foldable.
Yeah.
So I don't have the same, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just been really into the Pixel,
Yeah. Me too. Me
except for
too.
the one
But
year I had OnePlus, which was it was daring.
sometimes we stray, and then we.
It was really daring.
Hey, they make some good phones
Oh,
nowadays. The
No, I
11 is
agree.
really good. The
they are.
13 is
They are.
awesome.
I
I mean,
agree.
OnePlus is one of those makers that when I review their phones, I tend to linger before switching back. Like
Yeah.
some phones, like I move into it and I review it, and I'm like waiting for the day that I finally like write or publish the last thing that I'm gonna do on it, because then I can finally move my SIM back to my phone. And I find I linger on OnePlus phones a lot, and now I also linger, by the way, on Nothing phones when I try them out too. So it's interesting.
That's interesting. Well,
Yeah.
in terms of One UI, I will be very curious to see. I think I'm probably I need to get the beta installed on the Galaxy S25 Ultra, and I
Yeah.
really want to see what the likeness is with Android 16, because I have such feelings about how Android 16 got its styling, and so it's always interesting to see what they're doing side by side, because Samsung
Yeah,
is the one that's really carrying the brand. So
you're not gonna see like Material 3 Expressive is not gonna be really
yeah,
showing up, and what you see on Pixel phones is not what's gonna look like on
yeah,
Samsung phones, because everyone styles their own OSs differently.
Samsung definitely
yeah.
has its own kind of
Yeah.
style thing going on right now. Yeah, for sure. And it's so
It's
much better than
such
it
a
used to be.
varied
Like when
world
I
we live in.
when I think of the Samsung of old and like the era that you're talking about, I can't remember what, because it was TouchWiz then, right? And I can't remember what that was to experience.
Mhm.
But I remember not
Yeah,
really
but
caring much for TouchWiz. So
it was really part of the, I'm just like going through the past now. I've been reading a lot about like
me
design
too.
language and stuff like that throughout the years. So it's
Yeah,
very interesting. It's very interesting.
yeah,
And I'll be
I love it.
interested to see what One UI does.
Yep, how it evolves. Indeed. Well, the Samsung news does not stop there. No, we've got plenty more, including this next story. You don't even have to wait very long for it. It just made sense, right? Samsung is nearing the finalization of potentially a big partnership with Perplexity
Yeah,
AI.
super big.
Integrations with future Samsung devices with Perplexity. This includes preloading the Perplexity app and the voice assistant, of which I kind of feel like Perplexity has a pretty solid voice assistant actually in my working with it. Embedding its AI search features into the Samsung browser, possibly enhancing that feature that some people never, just point and laugh at, called Bixby, but it's probably not that funny, but it's easy to make fun of. Perplexity could become the default AI assistant on the S26 series. We will have to wait and see, but wow, big changes. I mean, I think up until now, when it comes to these AI assistants, we're used to seeing Google having the having the shoe in as far as that's concerned. Way back when it was Assistant, and you had Assistant on every device, no question. And then with Gemini, kind of, it'd be easy to think, oh, well, it's Google, and they're working towards a more fully integrated operating system with all their services. So we're going to see Gemini everywhere. And so far we have seen Gemini on a lot of Android, but it kind of seems like, with all the change happening with Google, especially, they're getting pressure from every which direction. And I don't think that this is necessarily specific to court cases or challenges necessarily that they're getting this with their AI strategy, but it really does seem like there's a lot of opportunity for competitors like Perplexity. Not to mention, Perplexity is a pretty solid service. It's a pretty solid app.
I just wonder, I'm actually wondering, are they going to be able to make Perplexity the default? Probably not default by itself, standalone, because I don't think Google's licensing terms allow for that.
I was gonna say,
I know that
Bixby terms.
I do know
Google pay
Samsung
them.
has been able to use Bixby as a default in the past, so I guess integrating Perplexity into Bixby as its search backend would kind of, in a roundabout way, allow Perplexity to be the default.
Yeah.
But then again, how many people actually stick with Bixby as the assistant and instead of changing over?
Yeah, but it's different if it's Perplexity, which, as Bloomberg has reported on, has been in talks with Apple for iOS.
Yeah.
So it's a very different marketing scheme there to be like, it's the phone with the one that Apple has and the one Google has.
Right.
And Apple has also been in talks with Google to integrate Gemini as well. So it's gonna be interesting to see which one people gravitate towards and stick with. Is it going to be ChatGPT there? Is it going to be Gemini, or is it going to be Perplexity? I'm guessing probably most people are going to be using ChatGPT on their iPhone.
I mean, it's got the most widespread knowledge. If you stopped 100 people on the street and said, "Have you heard of ChatGPT?" Many of them are going to say yes. If you stopped the same people and said, "Have you heard of Perplexity?"
You heard of Gemini.
Or even Gemini, right. It's probably going to be a lot lower. So people tend, I would imagine, to go with the thing that's most familiar, and if ChatGPT is offered. But I mean, it does seem that we're kind of working, that things are heading in a direction when it comes to mobile and AI service providers, whatever you want to call them, that points to the user choice as far as what to use. And so, I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, also, especially because when you work with these different models, you realize after enough time with them that they all have different strengths. They all kind of do the same thing, and you can ask them all the same question and get answers that will work for you. But some of them are stronger in the prose, and some of them are stronger in the research, and you only get that through working with them. So at least for power users, it's going to be really nice to be able to have multiple models on a single device like that.
But the fact that they're all so similar means the average person is just going to use
also
the default,
confusing,
right? Yeah. For me, that's kind of how I am with Gemini. It's good enough at almost everything it does that I don't see any other reason to use something else. I don't see why should I keep up to date with whether or not Claude 4 is better at this specific coding task versus whether ChatGPT is better at image generation versus whether Gemini is better at video generation, right? They're all basically kind of very similar. So why should I just use one service for everything? And the service is already available on my Android phone.
Gemini Pro too, probably.
Yeah, with Google One. So that kind of integration works there to Google's benefit a lot.
I think what's funny about that is you are saying about Gemini how I generally feel about Perplexity. And it's just interesting that we have our flag kind of dropped in certain places, because when I use Gemini, I'm like, you're not giving me what I want, but yet it totally gives you what you want, So it's just really. I feel
I'm also super reliant on the search engine, so that's why it gives me what I want, especially since they upgraded it so that they can actually read through my search results, and so now I get such specificity. Oh, that was a hard one to say. It gets very specific. I'm not going to say that word again because it was hard. And it's nice, and it's nice that it's specific, because then I didn't have to give it the context.
You didn't have to go that extra step.
It already knows the context from the search history.
Yeah, that's true.
And sometimes it creeps me out, by the way, when it does the search context, because it'll bring something up like
Wait a
like
minute,
the
you know
other
me
day.
too well.
So like the other day, for instance, I was using it to write something about, the Dutch man that I'm obsessed with. And Gemini kind of really called me. It was just, it's been interesting.
Called you
It's
out.
been interesting. I think they programmed a personality into it, and I am going to get down to the bottom of this. Because after that demo we saw at Google I/O, where the person is walking around talking to Gemini Live, and they were having all this like back and forth banter, like there has to have been some sort of personality imbued into the AI.
Yeah.
Anyway, side note.
I do like the personalization aspect of it. Actually, I recently turned off my auto delete feature because I had it set to 18 months. I didn't really care that much about my search history because like I'm not really searching back through my search history to find stuff I searched over like 2 years ago. Like that didn't really matter to me.
Yeah,
but now
right.
the fact that like Gemini can pull it up contextually seems like a really valuable use for me to actually keep it on. And I wonder if many other people are going to be making that same decision. Like, oh, maybe I'll disable auto
Well, I'll
delete.
tell you, it'll read you for filth, Mishaal. Okay, especially if you're obsessed with a Dutch man. So
the musician, is this who you're talking about? The Joost.
Joost Klein. Yes.
Joost. Not
Yes.
Joost. Joost.
Yes.
Joost. Okay, excellent. All right, well, I'm happy with that. Let's see here. What else, Mishaal? We've got Google.
Some quick Android 16 news. Android 16 QPR1, because a lot of people were expecting Google to release Android 16, the stable release today, but clearly that hasn't happened. But I do have some good Android 16 beta news for you to look forward to in the upcoming quarterly release that'll happen presumably in September. So first of all, if you install the beta right now, you know that Google released a new updated quick settings design, but that quick settings design still features the same combined panel where you have the notifications and the quick settings all in one panel. However, like I reported previously, that Google's been working on a split panel design where you pull down from the top left, and it pulls down the notifications. You pull down from the top right, and it shows the quick settings. Google hasn't abandoned that design. They're still working on it, but it will be optional. They're working on a new settings page in the Android 16 QPR1 release that allow you to switch between the combined and the separated panel design. And I uncovered that settings page in the QPR1 Beta 1 release and showed it off in this Android Authority article that Jason's scrolling through right now. And they're still working on actually fixing the split panel design, because this video that Jason is showing right now is actually back from March, I believe. So it has an old design, doesn't have any of the background blur or anything. But I believe they have added background blur, and that they're still fixing some things before they release this optional split panel design in a future release.
Okay.
And next up, Google is working on an ambient AOD feature that allows you to show your lock screen wallpaper on the always on display. So Samsung phones, Xiaomi phones, iPhones have the ability to show your wallpaper on the AOD, but Pixel phones don't. Although they do have an AOD feature that shows your time, date, notifications, etc. But this new feature will blur your lock screen wallpaper and then show it behind the clock when you have the AOD enabled. Right now, it doesn't look like this feature will be coming to current Pixel devices, because when I enabled it on a Pixel 8 Pro and a Pixel 9 Pro, you can kind of see the screen flicker. So it seems like this might be reserved for future Pixel devices, potentially the upcoming Pixel 10 series.
What? Okay, I'm a little confused.
Yeah, I can see.
Well, because when I think of AOD, maybe this is outdated thinking. I think of, here is a low power mode that doesn't light up all the pixels because that saves battery. But if you're blurring the background, you're lighting up pixels across the entire display. So isn't that kind of defeat a bit of the purpose? Or
yeah, but it's only 1 hertz.
Well, presumably it would.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
It would still be a low power state, right? Like the display would enter a 1 hertz state, a special state, presumably where it can reproduce colors more efficiently. Like probably it'll drain more battery with the wallpaper than without. But
a minimal amount.
Maybe Google has developed it in such a way that that difference will be minuscule.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Super minuscule. Plus, it
Just
adds a
do
little
that.
flair to the phone.
Yeah.
Well,
And
it does.
also,
It looks
anyway,
cool.
also,
It
guys, the iPhone does it. The iPhone does it. So
That's just the answer to everything. Well, the
Hey,
No,
iPhone
Google
does
did
it,
it
so we
before
got to
in the
do it.
past.
Yeah.
no, I don't. I don't mean, from far away, like when this dims, it's you still see Kuromi in the whole wallpaper. It's not blurred out.
Just like how
and I think-
Google had Loxy widgets in the past, but they're working on bringing it back.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Why? Because the iPhone
Yeah.
did it. The iPhone
Yeah.
did it after Google did it, but the iPhone did
Well,
it.
it shows that there's a response, because they took it away initially, probably because they were surveying users and users weren't using it. And then Apple had to go and reinvent the wheel.
Once again, Google was just ahead of its time. It announced it and implemented it before it was ready to shine. It did it with Google Glass. It did it with lock screen widgets, all sorts of examples.
Yeah.
Anything else with
right.
Android 16?
Yes. And the very last thing, very quickly, if you hate HDR content and the way it kind of brightens your screen when you're browsing social media at night, Google's working on a new feature that allows you to disable HDR content from making your screen brighter. So this new setting will be called Enhanced HDR Brightness. And basically, you can toggle it on and off, and it'll stop HDR content from making your screen go bright. And there's also a slider that you can adjust the intensity of that HDR brightening effect in case you still want to see some HDR images, but you don't want it to pop out as much as it currently does. So this is a feature that Samsung has kind of implemented, the toggle at least, in One UI 7. So it's good to see Google give users the option to turn off HDR content support in Android. This feature isn't available in QPR 1 release right now, but it might be coming in a future beta or potentially the stable release.
I think the solution is that everything in the world needs to be HDR. That's the easy solution.
But how are you going to upscale all the old TV that I watch? You can't do that.
I don't know.
And that's
Artificial
what I fall asleep to on the
intelligence.
Pixel 9 Pro every night, okay? No, Jason. They tried that with Daft Punk's Interstellar 5555, and nobody liked it.
Oh,
Nobody
really?
liked the AI upscaling. They said it was too obvious to see in the theater. It was just not.
Okay. I missed that one.
That happened back in November. It was like they were showing the movie at the theaters as part of the anniversary, and the whole thing about it was the AI upscaling. And then when I went to Reddit and I went to other comments, people were just like,
they just weren't
ruined it.
Oh,
yeah,
must have done a really bad job with the upscaling.
Yeah,
should have used Gemini.
Although we
should have used Gemini and just completely faked the ending to something that nobody's ever seen before. That VO3 stuff going around is creeping me out, y'all. I'm just saying. Okay.
Well, and now there's people that are just basically posting actual videos and saying made with VO3. It's hilarious.
I know.
This is the world we live in. We're pretending to be AI generated now because that's what gets the views. This podcast brought to you by VO3. We're not actually here right now. Actually, we are. Okay, so that's Android 16. And this is the time in Sprockets when we dance. No, this is the part of Android Faithful where we thank our patrons. First of all, patreon.com/Android Faithful. Thank you so very much for being amazing. All of you amazing patrons. And second of all, want to go ahead and highlight a few things. You get to vote on your favorite stories of 3. We give you 3 options, and you get to vote for the one that we talk about on this show. Turns out nowadays, the other 2 that you didn't vote for, we talk about on the other show. And I promise you, it's really good. Even though you didn't vote for them, we still find lots of great things to say about it. So that's in After Hours. But for this show, you also get to submit. Anyone can submit artwork for us to include with the post on Patreon. And this piece of artwork was inspired by our recent sponsor, the most amazing app, Planter. Listener Linda Barahal Norman sent in this springtime bordering on summer gardening bug droid. And it looks pretty good. For whatever reason, I can't zoom in further than this. So I'm sorry, it's small. But there you go. I like it. Probably made with Gemini.
Nice.
I don't know what it was made with, but thank you,
very nice.
Linda.
I want a bug droid like this, by the way, with like a little tiny flower pot, a little tiny watering can.
And
I think that's what we need.
A jaunty hat cocked
Mhm.
sassily to the side.
Yeah, like a Martha Stewart hat, something like that.
I love it. It's very wholesome. This is a very wholesome one, I have to say. It sets the stage. You know what it actually makes me realize? It would be cool to not have, like, instead of garden gnomes, to have garden android bug droids. That would be
Yes.
pretty awesome.
Yes. Now, if you know somebody with 3D printer or your local library, I'm
I mean,
sure.
not difficult
That's
to do, I
huge.
think.
That would be huge.
I
This
know
is this is an
it's-
opportunity I think we just stumbled upon. Bug
Somebody
droid
else do it.
garden
We don't have
gnomes.
time.
I don't know. I think maybe
Would you even be
Let's
allowed to
look-
do that? Would the Google ninjas come after you?
I don't know. Maybe we need to look into this. Like, if we're looking for like a product opportunity for the show, Android Faithful Garden Gnomes, that's pretty awesome, I gotta say.
Yeah,
Anyways.
but with tariffs, it's going to be hard to find a supplier. Anyway.
Yeah. Each one would cost like $150, but there's someone out there that would be willing to pay it. Anyways, Linda, would you pay it? Let us know. And thank
Most
you for sending
expensive.
in your amazing artwork. And then we do have 3 different stories that you voted on. Sony is reportedly turning to third-party manufacturers for its high-end phones. Boy, did that lose out at 7% of the votes. Lucky for you, we're still talking about it
Different era.
later. Nothing says it's killing a key design feature that sets its phones apart. I'm kind of surprised that didn't make it in. Honestly, I'm surprised that didn't make it into like our regular news, because that's an interesting story, I gotta say. But you're not going to hear about it because only 23% of you voted for it. You'll hear it in after hours, though, if you're a patron. And finally, Pixel VIPs could be the Contacts app upgrade you didn't know you needed. That came in at 70% of the vote, which means we are talking about it. And what is this all about? This is a widget, a new widget that is in the works. We know about it courtesy of Android authorities, APK teardown of the Contacts app, that essentially is going to allow users to set up to 8 VIP contacts in widget form. And that'll allow you to do a bunch of things really quickly with those amazing contacts. View recent calls with them or messages, including WhatsApp, real-time location updates for those people, birthdays, personal notes, shortcuts for calling, texting, messaging, even the local weather and time for that contact's location. So if you really need to like keep track of what time it is there before you send them a message, this widget will tell you. And apparently this is coming soon. At some point. I don't know that it's
Probably
been
going to be like
confirmed.
a Pixel 10 kind of tie-in feature. Like
Yeah.
it'll be announced alongside it, or potentially with the
Elevate
Pixel
your
drop.
closest family and friends.
Oh,
From favorites to VIPs. I mean,
You
I
know
already have my 2 faves. Why do I need more than that? More than that, excuse me.
I know I'm part of your favorite, but you need to open it up to more. Like, other people deserve to be, one of your favorites.
You are
too.
pinned in WhatsApp.
Oh,
But- But the main phone app, I'm sorry, is my husband and my best friend, and that's it. So
fair, totally fair.
I like the idea of this widget. Like right now, contact widgets are basically just a big picture that you can tap
Yes.
to quickly call someone. This
Yeah.
kind of says like, you have that picture to call or text someone, but you also have a lot of this contextual information, like the most recent message, the current weather at their location, maybe other notifications or reminders you set for yourself. Kind of like someone really important that you'll always want to be aware of and what you talk to them about. You can put them on this widget as your VIP. So I kind of like the idea of that.
You're my VIP. So this reminds me of dating myself, but MySpace. Remember MySpace? You had your
top 8.
You had your top 8. Hey, if you made it on someone's top 8, you felt pretty special. So here you
I got
go.
dumped on MySpace. I don't want to talk about it.
Oh my goodness,
a
that
feeling-
sucks. Although that's kind of intriguing.
It really sucked. He changed his status before I even knew about it. It was a whole awful thing.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I'm
Yeah, that
sorry.
I've been reliving because I'm like working on a book about my life. But anyway, VIP
that
sounds
interesting.
very interesting to me, and I'm very curious how this is going to become a part of the zeitgeist, the way that
Can
the
I-
MySpace top 8 did.
Can I also use this to complain about something that probably only phone reviewers ever complain about? Is that
Yeah.
when I
What's
set
that?
up a new phone, my Google dialer app always has my starred contacts out of order. Like every time like I set it up and I put it in the right order, I'm like, yes, my wife is up here, my kids are right here, you know, they're all up at the top, like people that I really, you know, because I probably have like 16 starred contacts, let's say. And then I set up a new phone and they're starred, but they're all random. And I have to like drag them and everything. It's the type of thing that only phone reviewers ever have to worry about because we use so many phones.
I feel like you
Am I
should
the only
just
person?
have two people. Two people.
I haven't noticed that. I think probably because I just don't make many regular phone calls nowadays.
Yeah.
Mostly like text or like texting apps or WhatsApp or something like that.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why I haven't noticed.
Well, you know, like I got, you know, my wife and my kids, of course, they all have phones. I want those right at the top. My mom, you know, I don't call many people, but there are people that I call. And every time I open set up a new phone and then I go to like call my mom or whatever, I'm like, have to scroll through my stars list. I'm like, why do I need to do this? I already started and sorted, but apparently the sort doesn't come over. It's the stars do, but the sort doesn't. Anyways.
Oh, yeah, they do. You can long press and move it, but I just don't know because I only have two people.
Put this one over here now. No,
yeah,
now
I
over
did.
Here.
I putting my best friend in the front. You're right.
I didn't even know you could rearrange them.
Really?
List of favorites at the top.
Today I learned.
Yeah. TIL. There you go. Did you learn something, all of you who asked us to talk about this? I hope so. Patreon.com/AndroidFaithful, and you can tell us what we talk about next time, and maybe you'll learn something then too. Big thank you to everyone in our Patreon, including Luis E. Aguilar. Thank you, Luis, for your ongoing support. You are an amazing patron, as are all of our patrons. We absolutely adore you. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side of the break, we have a cool interview to throw to, and I think you're going to like it. That's coming up here in a moment. All right, just yesterday, so this would be Monday, June 2nd, just giving you the date just in case we say anything that's date specific, although I don't think that we did. But anyways, sat down, both Ron Richards and I, to talk with Jeff Howard, who really manages a lot of the device world for AT&T here in the US. I actually met Jeff a couple of months ago at the Samsung Unpacked event, so I guess that would be January. I ended up at the end of that event sitting down with Jeff for like 20 minutes. We just kind of talked about the state of, Samsung and the state of mobility and, wearables coming in the future and AI. It was just a really cool conversation, and then had the opportunity and the thought to be like, hey, why don't we invite Jeff on to talk about some of these like carrier specific things? Because carriers play a really important role here in the US, especially when it comes to smartphones that the majority of, US users use. Many people get their phones through the carriers, and it was kind of a cool opportunity to talk about topics related to that. So I'm going to go ahead and throw to that, and I hope you enjoy, and then we'll see you on the other side of the interview. Roll tape. All right, super excited to sit down with Jeff Howard, VP of Consumer Devices at AT&T, to talk about, well, really, we could talk about anything that has to do with carriers in the U.S., and we've got other things to talk about. But Jeff, it's really great to see you again.
Nope, sounds good. Good to talk to you guys again. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, I had the chance when, was it Mobile World Congress? I'm trying to remember. No, it wasn't Mobile World Congress. It was Samsung Galaxy Unpacked is where I met you for the first time.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah.
And sat down with you, and we had just seen at the Samsung event the tiny little slender slim device, but it was more of a tease than anything. So we could talk about that. Now it's here. We could definitely talk about that. But why don't we kind of start off with kind of from a broad spectrum here? Ron and I have been doing Android podcasting since the beginning, basically since 2010. And so we've seen the evolution of all this stuff. And especially here in the US, carriers play such an important role for the vast majority of people who are, buying their phones. They're probably doing it through carrier stores. To a certain degree, carriers have been kind of the gatekeepers of the devices at times, the software updates, all that kind of stuff. And I'm curious to know, kind of just to kick things off, what do you see as AT&T's role in the ecosystem, the mobile ecosystem that we have today? How have things shifted in like the past decade? Because things have definitely transformed over time. Where do you peg that right now?
Right. Well, I've been around a long time too, and so I certainly know the journey we've been on. Right. And so, look, I think from a carrier perspective, it's evolved quite a bit over time. Right. In the initial stages, I think it was very much focused on education, like what was a smartphone, and at the time, iOS was brand new, Android was there from a competitive point of view. And we've seen both of those ecosystems sort of evolve over time. But I think customers went from needing and wanting to be educated to now they want to understand how much more they can actually get out of their smartphone, regardless of what the operating system is on that particular device. And so I think the role of the carrier is it's just a handful of things, right? Number one is let's always make sure that we have a variety of products there to suit any customer's needs, whatever they would like, whether it's brand, form factor, whether it's capabilities on that particular piece of hardware. Let's make sure we have an appropriate amount of product there for customers to choose from. Number two, I think part of our job, and it's still very significant today, is let's make sure they're secure. All the data on here, on those devices today are very critical to the customers, whether it's personal information, network information, et cetera. And so making sure that it's secure at all times is a number two thing there. And then thirdly, when customers do have challenges, concerns, questions, be there to answer them for them, right? Be that resource to help understand new things that are coming along and make sure that they're getting the most, not only out of their piece of hardware that's in their hand, but out of their connectivity solution too, which we're really proud to be able to provide from AT&T.
That's great. And so, yeah, to kind of picking up off of Jason's initial question there, you know, when I first got my first Android phone, I ran to the carrier because that was the only place where I can get it, right? And now here we are, you know, nearly, I don't want to say how long, you know, many years it's been, because I think, you know, the gray in my hair shows it. But, yourself, you know, yeah. the platforms have shifted in such a way where we have things that we never even thought of years and years and years ago, like, you know, AI on device and satellite connectivity. But one trend that's also emerged is this concept of unlocked phones, you know, and now, you know, whereas when smartphones came in the marketplace, I had to go to the AT&T store to get a phone, and the subsidized price, and the, you know, new every two and all those sort of things. Now I can go to the Google store and buy an Android phone. Now I can go to Amazon, I can go to Best Buy. How has the carrier had to evolve with the marketplace in terms of, you know, the actual hardware e-commerce portion of the phones, where users aren't necessarily beholden to coming to you for a phone?
Yeah, and I don't think we look at it as to being beholden to the carrier either, right? We look at it as we are obviously a destination where a customer can come to learn about our connectivity, learn about the services we provide, learn about the hardware that we distribute on behalf of our partners. And so I certainly look at it as giving customers that optionality that they're looking for and providing them that avenue to come and choose how they want to be served today, right? If that happens to be through an OEM store and actually going and buying a product in that manner, certainly willing to support that, bring that device. We'd love to have you on our network. But also when you come to our locations and or our digital assets and actually look at information about these products that are available from us, making sure that we are expert. We are expert in how those devices are going to work with our network, expert in the capabilities of those devices and what sort of usefulness a customer should be looking for and able to achieve from that, and making sure that they actually get everything and anything they can out of those devices. AI has been a revolution, and it's just beginning, as you all know. And so really looking forward to making sure that we can continue to provide those great experiences for our customers.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not just the AI on the devices. You know, there's so many different directions that things are headed right now. And Ron, you mentioned satellite connectivity. That's such a big one, right? Like filling out the gaps and everything is just so critical and so important. And then we've got, looking a little bit further down, you know, we're starting to see Google with its Project Astra glasses and this, like, these new form factors coming down the pipeline. What are carriers like AT&T doing to kind of prepare for these shifts as they happen? Because it feels like right now things are happening at breakneck speed. How do you even prepare for that stuff?
Well, first of all, it's actually listening to what customers want, right? And so going out and actually hearing what they want on a consistent basis, what more they want to get from a connectivity solution from a provider like AT&T. Number two is sitting down with those partners, understanding what the technology is capable of doing today. Thirdly, taking that information and making sure that it's easily explainable, easily used, right? Not bringing in technology for technology's sake, but actually having a problem that a customer's looking to have solved and actually bringing it forward that way. Glasses are a great example of that. Entertainment's obviously a great use case, and several have hit the mark there. Others are just looking for a solution where they can put their smartphone down for a period of time and still have access to information when they want to, and not miss that moment with the camera, et cetera. And so I'm as excited as you guys are. I'm a hardware guy at heart, been doing this for a really long time, as you guys mentioned. And so to see new form factors coming along that are solving real customer problems, I think is not only important for us as an industry, but secondarily, and most important, making sure that the customers are getting what they need from that connectivity solution we provide. So.
Yeah, so you mentioned new form factors that are solving customers' problems as they arise, and I think that's kind of a perfect little segue into the S25 Edge. And I think it's maybe, it's a little, what is the word? Like, some people might either argue for or against the slim form factor, right? And say, well, it's really not solving any problems, or, oh my goodness, it's giving me exactly what I want. I'm curious to know about, how AT&T customers have responded so far when it comes to the S25 Edge. You guys actually sent me the Edge for review. I've got a review in the works and not quite there yet. So thank you for that. But just full disclosure, what are customers saying about the Edge? Are they, is it worth it to them to well,
it's really early.
Slim phone.
Right. And so it's super early in the process. We just started delivering phones last week to customers who had actually come in and pre-ordered. I would say that the feedback has been positive. There was a lot of concern up front, and specifically with battery life. And I think what we've heard just initially, right, a lot of it's been done by reviewers like yourself that have been surprised about the length of time that they can actually have that device in a useful state during the day based on the slimness there. And keep in mind, this is a much smaller battery than we've seen in any device that has a 6.7 inch display. And so I've been really surprised with that. I'm really looking forward to understanding customers' usage patterns here and whether it really meets the needs. But I'll tell you, we talked a little bit just a second ago about customers having the ability and the choice to pick a solution that they want. I think customers are excited about having something that weighs less, that is in a slimmer form factor, that's a little more portable and mobile, right? And we'll understand whether the right trade-offs were made by this particular partner as you see this ecosystem continue to evolve. But the most exciting part for me is the fact that we do have partners like Samsung that are pushing the envelope from a technology point of view in the right way. And so they're not making huge trade-offs from a camera point of view. Right, they've upgraded the memory in that particular device. They believe they've solved the appropriate level of problem from a battery life point of view, and we'll see. And customers will tell us whether it's appropriate, and we'll evolve. But to see meaningful change in the industry, I think, is a good thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sorry, Ron, just real quick, I'll just say another phone that I've been spending a lot of time with is the Razr Ultra, the Motorola Razr Ultra. And from a thinness perspective, it's been quite interesting using them both at the same time, because with the foldables, when this thing's unfolded, I mean, it's very close to the same thinness and everything.
Right.
Yet the S25 Ultra is a little bit thinner, and definitely you feel it. Like, this thing is super light, and so it's interesting.
Well, and I'm glad that you mentioned the Razr there, because Jeff, you just kind of triggered a follow-up question there for me, and being as a hardware guy, because when you talk about being excited for a new form factor, the whole foldable market, a couple of years ago did not exist, right? And you had, whether, Samsung introduced it with the Fold and the Flip, and then you have Motorola coming in with the Razr. How has the experience of bringing that to your customers? And I'm really curious what the feedback loop is with your customers in terms of how do you guys gather that feedback from customers telling you that, I mean, is it purely sales? Because Lord knows I've been on the receiving end of buying a phone and hating it and being stuck with it for 2 years until I buy my next one. And I only tell Jason, I don't necessarily tell the person I bought it from, right? So how do you measure that success when you add a hardware device into your guys' lineup?
Yeah, we're on our 6th generation of foldables now from Samsung. Motorola's coming to the marketplace at this point. Google has entered, right, with their Fold as well. And so I think the beauty of this is we're seeing many different suppliers trying different things from a hardware point of view, again, to meet those customer needs. And so the beauty of what we do with our customer base is once we actually have a new product that's introduced, we obviously look at sales, to your point. We look at quality metrics, right? The number of products that are coming back to us, the number of phone calls that we necessarily take on that new form factor, et cetera. But lastly, we go out and talk to customers that have bought that or have chosen not to buy it for a particular reason, understand why they made the decision they did. And then we take that feedback and provide it with our partners to go and understand how we can evolve the future products to support that. The initial concern out of the gate with the Flip in particular was about quality. And I think you've seen that product evolve over time. Motorola had a lot of learnings from their competitors as they entered the marketplace about the quality. And obviously they had a lot of experience back to the original Razr days back in 2007 and earlier, where they actually were introducing those products, but it was a single screen, right? You weren't dealing with a foldable display as part of that. Different. And to see that come along from a quality point of view and the consistent improvement generation over generation, I think has been fantastic. And so it's not just about putting a product out there and hoping it works. It's about putting it out there, listening, and then evolving to make sure that that product continues to do well out there.
I got into a conversation real quick, Ron. Sorry to keep stepping on you.
No,
I got into a conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and I pulled this phone out. They're like, "Oh my goodness, what is that?" And I told him it's the Motorola Razr, and he was like looking at it for a while, and then he was like, "Yeah, but it's not as sharp as the Motorola Razr. I want the edges to be sharp. Who knows? Maybe Motorola will go there."
That's right.
You used to be able to cut somebody with the original Razr.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So up to his name.
And that's really interesting though, because like so not asking for any proprietary information or sales data, putting that aside, and also putting Apple aside, because we are Android faithful, put Apple aside. Curious to know, what Android brand, has been closest to Samsung in terms of success at AT&T, both today and over the evolution since you've been there. Obviously Motorola jumps out, looking at your website, currently you guys offer Samsung, Motorola, and Sonim, right? Those are the three brands. There are many, many brands to choose from. And I know after, looking at AT&T over the years, you've offered others in the past. I'm sure, contracts come and go. From your experience with AT&T, has Motorola really kind of, solidified their place as kind of the second one there behind Samsung? How does the brand dynamics over Android evolve in your experience since you've been with AT&T?
Well, I'll tell you, Motorola has done a fantastic job over the last, I would say 3 to 4 years specifically. Back when COVID first occurred, we moved to a digital model really quick, as you guys are aware, even though we had stores open almost immediately following the beginning of the pandemic, right? So we could actually serve customers. I'll say they did a fantastic job in their digital assets and helping us build up our site to make sure that you actually got that presence and you could actually go and sell in a meaningful way online. We also have Google in our lineup. And so I would tell customers out there, one of the things I hear pretty consistently from folks is you're a Samsung and Apple shop. And I'll say, come look at our stores or go to our website, because you're going to see a portfolio of products that can't be matched in the U.S. marketplace today, right? And so Google's a significant part, Motorola's a significant part, and both play a very strategic role in our portfolio planning efforts, and all of that based on the core essence of Android as a whole, right? And so it's just not a Samsung game for us, right? Certainly in the Android space. And then to your point, as you move into things like FirstNet and more ruggedized devices, et cetera, partners like Sonim have played a big role there for us.
You just said rugged. I think I literally saw Ron's ears perk up when you said rugged.
I love me the rugged devices. I think it is an underappreciated category in the space.
Yeah. And I'm sure, I think among kind of like mainstream consumers, I'm not going out there buying a rugged phone. I don't have a specific need for it, but the carriers, of course they are, because the people who really are out in the field and need a phone that can withstand these elements and can withstand the potential of being dropped a million times and everything, they're going to want to go somewhere to test these things out. You kind of can't take the internet for granted, by its word. You kind of got to put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah. And we look at rugged devices across the board on a consistent basis, but first responders are where we spend most of our time. They're looking for something that's very durable. They don't have the time, the energy, or the space to be carrying around these devices that are going to break on a consistent basis because of the environment they're in on a consistent basis. And so finding solutions for folks that need that extra level of durability is something else that we obviously spend time looking at it, again, in the context of portfolio planning. So not every product needs the same level of durability, but there are some that are very unique that we need to make sure we care for as well.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's interesting to me along these lines is, some of I want to say the newer kind of arrivals in the Android scene, but some of them aren't so new, right? OnePlus has been around now. God, when was the OnePlus One? I mean, I feel like it's almost a decade at this point. Like they're kind of old, an older brand, even though they still feel reasonably fresh and new and everything. How do brands like that make the breakthrough? Like, at what point is a brand like OnePlus or Nothing? And I realize Nothing is, I'm pretty sure they're not with the AT&T network yet, but how do companies like that break through to get onto a carrier like AT&T?
Well, the first thing I'd say is we talk to anybody and everybody, right? And so we have a lot of partners that we talk to on a consistent basis, just to understand what is available in the marketplace and understand if it's a good fit for the customers we believe that are going to come in and want to buy directly from us. You mentioned Nothing as a brand. You mentioned OnePlus. Both of those brands, you'll find quite a few of those devices already on our network, but in a BYOD model. So bring your own device to our network and we'll activate it. And so we actually see quite a few of those customers actually bringing their product and just wanting service from that. And we're willing to support that customer in that way as well.
So I guess that, one of the things that we've been tracking, at least on the AT&T side, has been the new Turbo Key messaging. Can you break down exactly what Turbo Key actually does in a way that a regular Android user might appreciate?
Yeah, so AT&T Turbo is a new service that we offer to our customers, and it's all about reliability of your connection. If you're in an environment where you're a gamer and you want to make sure that you have latency that you can count on, right, or lack of latency, I should say. So you want to make sure that you have a connection that you're going to be able to actually participate in the game and not have to worry about disruptions, et cetera. From a data connectivity point of view, Turbo is an option for you. You can sign up for that. And the beauty of it is it applies to all the connections that you make. It's not application specific. And so that capability would be available to that customer for any app that they're actually utilizing on their smartphone. And so we provide that service today at $7 a month per line, but you can get it in any environment. You can turn it on for a month, turn it off for a month, however you choose to utilize it, whatever environment that you're going to operate in. And so we think it's fantastic and sort of new and something that customers are really going to like. And initial data would say that is the case, but it just gives them that level of comfort that they're going to be able to have that connection anytime they need it, wherever they're at.
Nice. That's great. Now, what this kind of reminds me of is the messaging landscape has really shifted pretty significantly in the last couple of years. RCS has come along, kind of these more full-featured universal messaging standards are now at play. And it has me wondering kind of about features like Turbo Key, but really just from a wider perspective, when a specification or a standard like RCS comes along and it does a lot of the things that maybe these special services that were once offered did. How does AT&T approach that? How do you ensure that some of these other services that you offer still provide value when you're competing with the fact that now there's a standard that does a lot of these things that used to be?
Yeah, well, RCS obviously is something we've engaged with Google and the entire ecosystem from a GSM perspective, right? So the good thing about RCS is it's a global standard, right? It's not US, it's not a specific OEM, it's not a specific carrier. And so absolutely participate in that on a consistent basis. Things like Turbo, when they come along, this is something we've developed internally based on, again, a customer need. So we've seen customers who are like, look, I want to make sure my smartphone has the connectivity, it's reliable, it's standardized. I know exactly what I can count on every single time I turn this feature on to make sure that I'm going to have a great experience and I'm not disadvantaged in this particular scenario with respect to gaming. I'm not disadvantaged versus my competitors. And so I think we believe it's differentiated. It's something you're not seeing from other carriers in the US at this point. And so it's something we're really excited about.
And
Nice.
I find that really interesting because it's like, we talked about the role the carrier plays and hardware availability and plan pricing and things like that. Those are the kind of obvious things. But something like Turbo Key on the software side is a differentiator, that you can bring that another carrier might not be able to. But then on the flip side, I'm sure you're probably aware, over the years, one of the things, one of the complaints that we've heard the most from our audience has been the concept of bloatware, right? And, I got a phone from this carrier and the home screen is already filled with all these apps that I don't want. Or
Sure.
we've seen, apps, paid preloading of, through partnerships or things like that. I won't say specific companies or other carriers, but there have been deals and things like that. So, where does AT&T really stand in terms of carrier branded apps and also app preloads at this point in 2025, knowing that, some customers, people are really looking for as blank of a phone as possible. At least there's a segment of that. So
yeah, and I think, and I do appreciate the question because I've obviously heard about that a lot in my career. But I will say this: we have certainly listened to customer feedback with respect to bloatware. I think a lot of the applications, a lot of the capabilities that you see in your app tray, et cetera, we obviously distribute that product. They're not all from the carrier, right? So you're going to have some from the manufacturer themselves, some from the operating system provider that are part of the package that comes with Android as an operating system. But two things I would say. Number one is we've reduced the number of preloads significantly over the last several years, and certainly since 2020 and forward. So that's number one. Number two is it may not be obvious to the consumers today, but the applications that we put on the device are fully deletable. You can remove them from memory, so you can free up all the memory that you've purchased as part of your acquisition of that particular device. And so number one, we are focused on the customer. Number two is we've done several different things to hopefully make that experience better. We are always taking feedback, so keep providing it. We're listening, and so hopefully that addresses the question.
Great. Sounds like a good spot to be in. So.
Absolutely. We've only got a few minutes left, and I know that I have a question, and I know that Ron has a pretty awesome question too. So, just kind of looking forward, or kind of from a holistic perspective, what do you see is a misconception that the enthusiast community on Android has about carriers that you have the opportunity to kind of clarify a little bit?
Right. Well, first of all, I would say I addressed one a little bit earlier, right? Which is we only sell Samsung and Apple. So that is absolutely not the case. I would ask you guys to come in and take a look at our portfolio of products. Number two is I believe folks believe that hardware is becoming stale. I hope, as we've talked about today, you're seeing that the future of hardware in the mobile business and in the home, which we haven't talked a lot about today, but the future of hardware is getting nothing but stronger. And form factors are going to continue to evolve, and I think they're going to continue to evolve in ways that are very meaningful to customers. There's tons of articles out there today about AI and the impact that it's having on customers' experiences today on traditional smartphones. I would just say stay tuned, because I think the future of the way that you interact from an AI perspective with the environment or the internet as a whole, I think it's going to be very meaningful, and you're going to see some significant changes.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Awesome. And
All
my
right.
last question for you, Jeff, since you're a hardware guy and we have a lot of respect for you, and all your experience with Android of all time, if you had to pick one device as your favorite Android device of all time, what would you choose? What goes into your Android Hall of Fame?
Holy cow! That's from a long time ago.
We all have one that's in our heart. I know you do. We all at least a couple. If one comes to mind,
Yeah.
I Oh my gosh, I am totally stumped here because I really don't want to upset any of my partners. To be honest with you.
We could say this doesn't reflect AT&T in any way. This is the personal opinion of Jeff Howard. Well, it's clearly the Samsung S25 Edge. Clearly, right?
That is my current favorite product, absolutely, and it is the newest one around. I would actually harken back, and I would have to actually go get the name of the product, but the old slider phones. And I'll dig the name up for you guys. But the old
like old like G1, like the T-Mobile,
and look, I'm not going to go and talk about a competitor and their portfolio, sure. But those for a hardware guy were pretty cool. Like your ability to actually go and do all those.
I had those old cool. I had those HTCs that had the underneath the display was that whole keyboard that came out.
Absolutely.
And stuff like that. That was
like a switchblade.
Cool. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So you guys are bringing up those are old classics there. So that's good stuff.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I've got a number of them on the back wall.
That's
I just
awesome.
did a video about the Nexus One, which is another OG phone that stands the test of time. I mean, we were talking earlier about just the shift in buying kind of approaches on consumers and going unlocked and through the hardware designer or manufacturer, whatever, as opposed to carriers and everything. Nexus One was there from the beginning, so it's pretty important device. I know you got to go, Jeff. We've really appreciated hanging out with you and being able to ask you some questions, that come up on the show a lot. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about the carrier role, especially here in the U.S. And yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to throw those your way. So thank you.
Thank you all for the time. I really did enjoy it. Thanks so much.
And there we go. Wonderful conversation. I'm trying to get rid of it now. You can go away, conversation. There we go. It was awesome talking with Jeff a second time after having first talked to him at the Samsung event. And, I thought we were able to kind of go into territory that wasn't just like, check out this feature that we have with AT&T. We could kind of ask some harder questions like, how do you deal with, the perspective? I think the perspective of people over the years of what a carrier is, and especially with the enthusiast community, has been somewhat critical at times. And I thought he did a fair job tackling that. So,
yeah.
Yes, he was also manifesting that nothing comes to AT&T.
That could be. We could not even realize that we're breaking news right now. We won't know for a couple of years. It's potential. I don't know. We'll just have to find out. All right, we're going to take a quick break. And again, thank you to Jeff for his time. Thank you to AT&T for allowing us to talk with him. And thank you to AT&T for actually sending me the S25 Edge for review, which I'm working on and I'm going to talk about. But you're going to have to wait for just a few moments. On the other side of this break, I'm going to do a first look of the S25 Edge. So that's coming up here in a second. All right. So I have, it's one of those moments, and I know both of you understand this well, where suddenly you just get inundated with smartphones. And I just don't have the time to spend quality time with 4 phones at the same time. And so I have to I end up having to release reviews much later than, everyone else out there that's hitting the embargo because I can't keep up. Definitely the case with the S25 Edge, which I did get probably a week and a half ago, I'd say, from AT&T, but I've been so in the midst of so many other things that I haven't been able to move into it yet. I haven't been able to move my things into it yet. Definitely sometime soon. Does either of you have the Edge right now or any?
I held it very briefly for the first time on Friday. That's all I had.
Okay. That's right. We're going to talk about the event that you went to. What were you going to say, Flo?
I just said I have not really been seeking it. I kind of felt the same way as what you were talking about in the AT&T interview, which is that it's an edge case. It really is for a very specific kind of user. And they're going to try and figure out if this is what people want. Do they want the thinness at the expense of A, B, and C? Yeah.
And that really is the big question, right? Because there are definite trade-offs. But I can kind of give you a little bit of a notice. I've got a whole plethora of devices here, and I promise
I know
they're gonna come in handy
one
here.
That doesn't even work with today's Mobile
there's
technology.
There's a couple that don't work with today's mobile
Yeah.
technology. There's a lot of devices here that don't. But no, the Samsung Galaxy S25 Edge. So this is $1,100. So if you were going to price this, it kind of sits in between I think it's the S25 Plus and the S25 Ultra, which I actually have right here. Kind of similar, kind of industrial look, but definitely different on the thinness. And today, so when we're talking about thinness of this, 5.8 millimeters thick, 163 grams. So it's noticeably light when you hold it. As far as thinness is concerned, it definitely feels thin when you've got it in your hand. If you're talking about the camera as well, the camera housing, then you're talking 7.3 millimeters of thickness. So then, like, it's easy to say that it's just 5.8, but there is this part. But for what it's worth, it's a very small part, even though it's protruding.
To be fair, Jason, no manufacturer includes a camera bump when they're talking about their thickness. I think
Totally,
because they want to lower that number as much as possible.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and I mean, when you look at this design, like 90% of the device design is that lower thickness, 5.8 millimeters. And so I've got a whole bunch of phones and I'm like, all right, I want to put this, like, it's hard to put perspective on the thinness. And so I started pulling out a bunch of phones just to like compare. So we got the Nexus 1, classic Nexus 1, 11.5 millimeters. Keep in mind the S25 Edge, my camera is doing all sorts of wonky things, is 5.8 millimeters thick. So that's the Nexus 1. I got the Nexus 6 primarily because it's a huge phone, but I always kind of got the slender kind of feel when I used it, partially because it did the kind of curvature thing that you see here. And, it's much fatter, even if the edges aren't. The Nexus 6 is 10.1 millimeters at its thickest point. You got the sibling, the S25 Ultra, which comes in at 8.2 millimeters compared to 5.8, and you can really see the difference there. The Note 20 Ultra, which is, I think this is interesting because this is an older kind of Ultra phone from Samsung, and it's actually thinner than the S25 Ultra. It's 8.1 millimeters thin, but still, thicker. You've got the other phone that I had talked about in the interview that we just watched, the Razer Ultra, which I know I said in the interview, I was like, when it's unfolded, it's like the same, but it's actually not. There's something kind of an illusion effect that makes me feel like it's thinner than it actually is. When you put them side by side, you can kind of see it's a little thicker. It's 7.9 millimeters thick. And then finally, the final
weight distribution. Sorry to jump in.
Yeah, it might be. Actually, I think that you're right. It's the thinness, and then also the Droid Razer is also a lot taller, and so both of those things together just makes it feel more like a wafer, like a thin wafer, even though it's thicker. And then finally, and this is the fun one. This is the Motorola Droid. This is like coming home. This was my first Android device. Now, it is by no means as thin when you put it side by side, right? The Motorola Droid is 13.7 millimeters thick. So if you have one, this is a beast by comparison. But then I was like, okay, well, what about the slide out display? Just the display itself. And actually the display is a little bit, I can't get a great focus, a little bit thinner. But then I realized, here's the true comparison. Check this out. So we open up the back of the Motorola Droid, pull out the battery that hasn't exploded yet. This battery right here is the same thickness as the S25 Edge. Doesn't that look crazy? And so when you put it into this perspective, that's when you really start to see like, wow, that's actually pretty impressive. This thing looks tiny. And, I went
really good comparison.
I went all around today, and sure enough, when I put my fingers on both sides, it's pretty much edge to edge. So it's the size of a Motorola Droid battery. So there you go.
You're laughing at your little pun you did there.
What did I say?
It's pretty much edge to edge.
Oh my goodness. I didn't even mean to do that.
Didn't even plan that.
Didn't even plan that moment of brilliance. For phones that I don't have, remember Mobile World Congress TechnoSpark Slim, that was 5.75 millimeters thin. This is 5.8, so slightly slimmer than this. And then from what I understand, because I haven't used it myself, but the Oppo Find N5 is 4.21 millimeters when unfolded. I have to imagine that thing feels unreal when you've got that in your hands, but I have not tested that out myself. So anyways, that's just a little look at like the differentiator of the S25 Edge, what I think sets it apart, what Samsung is really kind of leveraging here as far as the differentiator. It also is a pretty, premium smartphone, right? You've got titanium frame, Gorilla Glass ceramic 2 on front and back, IP68. It's very smudgy because my fingers are apparently sweaty right now. 6.7 inch QHD plus AMOLED display on the front, Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy. So you've got the top of the line processor, 12 gigs RAM, 256, 512 gigs of storage. You do have just the 2 cameras on the back, 200 megapixel wide, f1.7 with optical image stabilization for your main, and then 12 megapixel ultra wide. And then on the front, the 12 megapixel. So you don't have an optical telephoto. And consider that, this price wise, this is not a less expensive device. Like, this is by all accounts a premium smartphone, but you're not getting the telephoto. You're getting a smaller battery, as we heard earlier, 3,900 milliamp hour battery. You also get slower wired charge, 25 watts wired charge, which is pretty slow to today's standard. It's not horribly slow, but it's slow by comparison to a lot of other devices. And
Trade-offs.
Yeah. What's that?
Trade-offs.
Yeah, it's all about trade-offs, right? And so for $1,100, you have to ask yourself, like, do I want to make these trade-offs in order, for that cost, which you're not saving money with a lower battery, but what you're getting primarily, almost exclusively, is the thinness and the lightness. So how important is that to you when you're trading off the battery, the smaller battery, when you're trading off that the camera system is not as powerful as other phones in its price range? It's not cheap. And yeah, I think that's the real question. That's certainly what I'm going to be looking into as I transition into reviewing this phone myself. So that is the S25 Edge. And yeah, I'm curious.
Jason, you very briefly mentioned it at the end there, but like throughout your comparison, you were focusing mostly on the thickness of the device, which I think is probably the least, one of the less important aspects, but one of the most important to Samsung in marketing. But what's more important to me is the reduced weight. It's just how much lighter it is compared to most other flagship phones. Yeah. Like, I don't care that it's thinner than the phones. I care that it's much lighter than most
it
other
is pretty light.
Phones. And that's
Try dropping it on your
makes a big difference.
And see if it hurts the same amount as the regular Galaxy S25 Ultra. Because I've been dropping the Pixel 9 Pro on my foot, and it has been hurting really bad. Not on purpose. It just happens.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you just doing this like to pass time? But apparently not.
No, I am not. I have a very bruised foot.
Well,
recently
don't do that anymore.
Happened.
Wear a shoe with steel toes or something. Yeah, that's true.
For me personally,
I don't wear shoes upstairs.
It is very light.
For me personally, I'm a little wary about the battery life just because, that's basically all the flagship specs, the same display as the S25 Plus, but a 1,000 milliamp hour smaller battery than the Plus. So I'm a little concerned there, but it's definitely, I can see the appeal of the device. It's one of those things you just have to hold in your hand for at least a few minutes, and then you'll either get it or you're like, who cares about this, right? It's like if you're used to the chunky flagship phones like I am, like, again, I love this device, the Xiaomi 15 Ultra, but it's a chunker.
Woo, that is a chunker.
Hold it in hand compared to the S25 Edge, and you're like, wow, this thing is insanely light. I could definitely feel this being a lot more comfortable to hold for hours a day. Yeah, I would recommend just go to a Best Buy, go to a Samsung store, try it out, see if you vibe with it.
Yeah, I mean, and we got to talk about your event, because I think this is the punctuation, right? Is that this event this device is not meant for enthusiasts, I don't believe. Yeah, and I think the event that you went to on Friday is a real example of that.
So on Friday, Samsung invited me to their launch event, which was more like a launch party in New York. They held an event at the Edge, which is like this place where like there's like a little
course they did.
balcony that hangs out over the edge, and they invited a performer named Dochi to do a live performance there. Very briefly, she showed up there. Almost no one there was from like tech media or like tech influencers. There was almost completely lifestyle influencers and like music influencers who attended the event. So I was like, me and my small group, we were like fish out of the water, definitely. But it was definitely a very interesting experience just because, you know, it's not your typical tech event. And the kind of people we were talking to, like, I would say probably 80-90% of them were iPhone users for sure. And the kind of users who were like, I'm not switching to Android because I don't want to be a green bubble. Like that kind of user. That's what most of them were like. But you know, they all like the idea of the Edge, the hardware, the lightness. But you know, whether or not that's going to be enough to get people to switch over, it's tough to say because the ecosystem is still a big draw. But yeah, this is definitely something you just got to try. Like you need to, you need people who either vibe with it or they don't vibe with it, and you just got to try it for yourself.
Yep.
The problem is, even when Samsung gives celebrities these things for free, like they are not using it. And I'm noticing the same thing with Google and the Pixel. So the celebrities are just not using it, and it's all because
the brand,
of the cachet that Apple carries, and also iMessage.
iMessage always goes back around to iMessage.
Goes back to iMessage.
It's just a messaging app. It's just a messaging app. I don't understand. I still don't. I'm such a boomer.
Did you guys realize the green bubble is actually the iPhone using person? So technically, they've been mad at us this entire time for making them a green bubble on their own system.
What do you mean? Isn't it the
Because
Android
when you
user that comes
text an
through as the
Android
green
person,
bubble?
We text them. We're not showing green bubbles, right? We don't see green bubbles. They do.
Exactly. That's why they're mad at us.
They see it as a representation of us.
Their side of the conversation is green. Our side is gray. So it's reverted. You don't have that nice blue that goes in. And so that's why they're mad at us, because we make them green instead of blue.
Oh, okay. I sort of understand. I'm sort of following.
When you text somebody from an iPhone to an Android device that is not connected over RCS, mind you.
Yeah.
Your bubble from the iPhone side is green.
I see.
Because it like replies on opposite sides of the.
I see what you're saying. Yes.
So
they're angry that you're turning them into a green bubble. You are turning them in. You're tainting them with the green bubble.
That's why they've been so angry at us for so long, because we've been turning
become
them
one with the green bubble.
Yeah. I'm telling you, we need a t-shirt.
Just accept you're a green bubble.
Proud green bubble. Proud of my green bubble heritage or whatever. I don't know what you call it, but anyways. So there it is. The Galaxy.
It's more like I'm proud to be in love with a green bubble because usually some spouse.
So the S25 Edge, I will definitely spend more time with it on a full-time basis. I am working on finalizing my review of the Motorola Moto Razr Ultra. And so that's going to be going up later this week, I think, or maybe early next week. I'm not really quite sure. But I'm working on the S25 Edge and have more to report later. And I don't know. That might be the Samsung news that we had for this week. And then now it's like lots of Google.
Yep.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, I hope keep your calendar open for August, Jason, because you might be getting a new device then, or a couple. Because Google is reportedly going to be launching the Pixel 10 series in August. We got actually in the UK, the Pixel Superfans group sent out an invite to people teasing that they'll have the opportunity to check out an upcoming device. So that kind of like hinted that there might be an early launch for the Pixel 10 relative to the Pixel 9 series. But then earlier this week, two separate sources, Arsène Lupin on X and then Android Headlines, both independently reported that Google will be launching the Pixel 10 series in August. Although initially it was reported that August 13th would be the date of the Pixel 10 series launch. Although Android Headlines later amended their article to say that actually it's going to be August 20th, with pre-orders opening on August 18th or August 28th. Oh, sorry, pre-orders opening on August 20th and then shipping on August 28th. Right, that makes more sense. So yeah, it looks like we'll be getting the Pixel 10 series around the same time as we got the Pixel 9 series, basically just a little bit later, 1 week later, and we'll be getting potentially the Pixel 10, Pixel 10 Pro, Pixel 10 Pro XL, and a new Pixel 10 Pro Fold. So 4 devices just like last year, including a foldable. And that's all that's rumored at this Made by Google launch event, which hopefully we'll all be going to. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah, I guess you're right. I think I forgot that the Pixel 9 event Made by Google event was last August. I thought that it was still later, but you're right. It was the earlier one. And so this is just kind of doubling down on that.
Yeah, and this earlier launch is like the whole reason, one of the main reasons they moved up the Android 16 release date. Because if you remember, Google, the Pixel 9 launched in August, but it launched with Android 14, not Android 15 out of the box. This time, the Pixel 10 series will... Yeah, it's just because of the way the Android release cycle kind of didn't line up with the Pixel release cycle. But this time, the Android 16 release will happen very soon. People were actually expecting it to happen today, June 3rd, but it didn't happen. But it's going to be coming soon. But because of that earlier release, it'll be ready, and the Pixel 10 series will be running Android 16 out of the box. Very likely.
Interesting. All right. Well, I'm here for it. Let's go. Let's go do some Made by Google and get a new Pixel that's not very different from the last one. Is kind of what it sounds like, right? Not an insane
I feel like this
changes.
may be the first year I don't upgrade.
Oh, really?
Because usually I do the trade-in.
Yeah.
And then it's basically I've just been paying $300 every year to have a new phone, because that's how much it's been after the trade-in. But I've been perfectly fine with the Pixel 9 Pro.
It's solid. Yeah.
As it should be. I mean, they promised 7 years of updates. Like,
totally.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to hold on to it for as long as you can.
Absolutely. Yeah. We are in a very specific kind of world bubble, in the technology fans, technology reporters. We have a warped sense of how long you hold on to devices.
It's true, but it says a lot that I'm not feeling like I need to upgrade. Like I'm not feeling like I'm missing out on what I'm doing.
I mean, these things are really
maybe there might be something really unique.
Exactly. Who knows?
Eye-catching when they launch the event. Launch the device.
Yeah, it could be. Could be. All right. Well, that is hardware. Because today's show is a little different, with the interview and everything, we don't have any feedback in this episode because we have some app news that we wanted to talk about. So we're going to end the show with a few stories in the apps realm. Mishaal, what you got?
All right. So if you're a PayPal user and a Google Wallet user, you may want to pay attention because PayPal will be discontinuing its Google Wallet account integration later this month. So if you're in the US and you have linked your PayPal account to Google Wallet and you use your PayPal account to make purchases, you'll want to quickly switch over any recurring payments you set up because they will forcibly unlink your account. And they're going to be removing the integration starting June 13th. So this integration actually, I think, began in 2017 and 2018. It's been around for a while, but since then, Google Wallet has evolved a lot. It's undergone several rebranding changes. Like it used to be called Android Pay back when PayPal announced this integration.
I can't even keep it straight anymore.
But if you want to, make a payment through Google Wallet now, you won't be able to use PayPal, at least if you're in the US, and if you haven't added a PayPal branded debit card, because those will still work. Those are still treated as regular cards that you add in Google Wallet.
Right.
If you're in Germany, this integration will still happen, although it's unclear why this integration is being removed only in the US and not in Germany. It could have to do with PayPal potentially launching their contactless payments feature, because in Germany, at least, you can now use the PayPal app to directly make payments with your phone instead of using Google Wallet or some other contactless payment service. You can now just use PayPal. Maybe PayPal will be bringing that to the US. We don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever
I
used
don't know.
PayPal.
Europe
or
always
Google
gets
Wallet.
like really secure payment methodology before we do, so I wouldn't be surprised if.
And weren't they kind of there?
They also have a
before
lot
we
more
were anyways?
alternatives than we do.
Yeah,
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 they
that's
do.
true. Yep. Sweet. Also in Google e-news, Google has launched an experimental app called, God, it's the Edge Day. This is called AI Edge Gallery. I didn't even put that together, but apparently today is Edge Day on this show. AI Edge Gallery. It allows users to download and run a number of open source AI models, and it's all done on device. So you can install this app on Android, also on iOS. It processes that data locally. It does not, which in other words, it does not need a data connection in order to run these models. It's all run on the device. It can run models from Hugging Face, for example. You can go on Hugging Face and download a model onto your device and run it through there. Certain models, anyways. 3 separate functions within the app. You can do AI chat for conversations. You can do Ask Image, which is like visual queries, and then you can do Prompt Lab to get single turn tasks, things like summarization, code generation, that sort of stuff. But this is all available not through the Play Store. You got to go to GitHub. It's released as an alpha version on GitHub under an Apache 2.0 license, and you can check it out for yourself. I think it's really, really interesting. If you've got one of those smartphones that ships with like 16 gigs of RAM, then you have a device that is set up for something like this. And yeah, be curious. If you play around with it, let us know kind of what you do. Contact at AndroidFaithful.com.
Maybe I don't want to do it on my daily driver, or maybe I want to do it on a empty test phone.
Yeah, I mean, it might slow everything down if you got that thing churning and you're using it for other things also. I don't know. I don't know how that works, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's a beast. It's probably gonna occupy a lot of your phone if you got that running a big chunky model.
Not just your RAM, but also your storage, because you have to download all these models separately.
Totally.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you've got a 512 gig phone with 16 gigs, are we at 20 gigs of RAM on mobile phones yet? I know that we've had 16.
I think we are overseas with like RAM boost. Yeah.
Oh, with RAM boost.
I don't count those.
I don't count those either.
I
I'm
know.
like,
I know.
Fake. Yeah.
I know.
It's marketing.
You can't download more RAM.
Yeah. Anyways,
you wouldn't download more RAM.
You wouldn't download a car either, would you?
And finally,
you know what you can download?
What?
Some pixel themes, potentially, because Google is working on a pixel themes feature in the Wallpaper and Style app. So
finally,
while I was digging through the QPR1 Beta 1 release, I discovered a hidden pixel themes button within the Wallpaper and Style app, and the description says, discover pixel themes. Basically, that's all I know right now. Like, I found this button, but this button doesn't work. It doesn't actually do anything because it's tied to an unreleased app that Google is potentially working on behind the scenes. So I can only speculate exactly what it will do. But just judging by the name, that Google will let you discover pixel themes. Potentially, they'll have a lot of preset themes that allow you to change the look and feel of the device, maybe change the icons, change the wallpaper, change, I don't know, the lock screen shortcuts, change a whole bunch of things that are possible to change individually right now, but bundle it all together into a single pack that you can apply just by clicking one button. Hopefully, they'll allow you to create and upload your own custom themes, because that's something that a lot of other Android OEMs like Samsung and Xiaomi and like Oppo, OnePlus, they offer the ability to load your own custom themes. But given Google's kind of philosophy around customization, it's more likely that you'll only be provided like some preset options to pick from. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. I mean, basically everything in the menu here combined to create presets, essentially, is what it's most likely going to be. That makes a lot of sense. Cool. Right on. And I bet they'll be really expressive, too.
I hope they'll let us switch them. Excuse me. I hope they will let us switch them out the way that iOS lets you sort of switch out lock screens. because I
What do you mean? How
I
does
like
it allow you to do that? That's different. What does it do?
you can make different lock screens on iOS, and then you just long press and switch between them depending on what you're feeling like. Or you could set up, I forget exactly, but you can set up, I think, a shortcut so that at a certain time of day, the iOS flips around and you have a different lock screen in the evening than you do in the morning.
Tied to the time of day. Oh,
And so
interesting.
I'm thinking about this just for themes in
Yeah.
terms of the Pixel launcher. It'd be cool if I could, switch out the clock depending on the time of day.
Yeah. At night, I don't want to do the analog clock work.
Yeah.
Just give me a digital clock so I can just look at the numbers and go, okay, because I'm tired, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Something like that.
I can't read a hand and
I can't,
read an hour to minute
decipher
sign.
this mumbo jumbo? No. Just give me numbers.
Oh,
All right, we've gone a little long tonight, so we're going to wrap this up. We also have after hours to do, so we got that coming up for patrons. Thank you, everybody, for being with us on this evening with Android Faithful. And this is the time when we talk about where people can follow our work. So, Mishaal, start with you. What do you want people to know?
You can go to my Linktree page. It's linktree/Mishaal Rahman. That has all the links to all my social media platforms, as well as a link to my Patreon page, where you can join and then join the Discord community there. If you like seeing what Google's working on in Android and you want to see what's coming next in future releases of Android, do give me a follow, because I post a lot about Android. It's pretty much all I post about. So yeah. Or you can just listen to what I do on Android Faithful, because we talk about a lot of the stuff too.
Indeed. Excellent stuff. Thank you, Mishaal, for being here. Thank you, Flo, for being here and for the awesome work you're doing with the newsletter and everything. What do you want to let people with?
thank you. Well, I want to remind people right now that for a while, we are going to be publishing the newsletter to the site so that everybody can preview it, get an idea of what we're sending out there. Also makes it a little easier to sign up for it. If you want to sign up for the newsletter, you do not have to be a patron. You can just go to androidfaithful.com, and then at the very top, you'll see Get Us in Your Inbox. Not only will you get when the show publishes, but you will also get my newsletter that comes out on Fridays.
Yay. Such
Yay.
as, do Android developers dig AI? Of course they dig
Yes.
Android. Do they dig AI? That's the question. Cool. Thank you, Flo. It was fun hanging out with you tonight.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. I also did, so I mentioned earlier, I don't know, did I mention it, that I did a Nexus 1 throwback video? I don't remember if I
I
mentioned that in
bookmarked
the show.
it, so don't you worry.
Okay, I'm not worried. I did a video that's all about the Nexus 1, looking back at that legendary device, and then I have an article on the site as well if you'd prefer to read about it and everything. Even a tweet from back in 2010 when my avatar looked like that.
I'm able to gander at space HW specs, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah. So I just had my hands on the Google phone. I feel so privileged. The new Google phone runs on HTC hardware. I saw it with Android 2.1. Home screen has new visual enhancements like animated desktop wallpaper. Supposedly, we should start hearing a lot about the new Google phone over the next few days. It's slick in an HTC hero sort of way. Wasn't able to gander at hardware specs, unfortunately. Supposedly, I say supposedly a lot, Google employees were given tons of these phones today, unlocked. Hashtag Google phone.
Hashtag Google phone.
And then the next day, Google announced it. And I felt all special because, like, I made like, the tech site rounds. They were like, oh, some guy named Jason saw the Google phone. It's pretty awesome. Anyways, I did a video all about it. So go to my channel, YouTube, just search for Jason Howell. You can find it there. And I should also mention that we have, a bunch of shows a bunch of stories that we did not talk about today. They did not make the cut, but we will be talking about them in after hours. Things like the two patron picks that did not get chosen. Also, looks like Google's phone app is getting a tasty Android 16 redesign. We've got lots of fun stories to throw around in after hours. So we're going to get off to that. But anyways, Thank you so much for watching and for listening. AndroidFaithful.com is the place where you can go for everything that we do on a regular basis for the most part. And then we've got our Patreon, patreon.com/AndroidFaithful to support us on a deeper level. We've got Ron Richards and Wintwit Dow. I'm not sure which of them is coming back next week. I know at least Ron is. Anyways, we'll be back then, and it'll be awesome. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody. Let's see here real quick, because we are a little late.
Yeah.
So today was very ruled by Edge. There were like multiple different unrelated and related references to Edge. So I don't know if
it's one of those words that's just easy and very tempting to make puns out of, like nothing.
I mean, Clinton's suggestion top voted, living on the edge. Living on the edge.
The Galaxy Edge.
Living on the Galaxy Edge. Yeah, that works. Will Perplexity be Samsung's Edge? The Edge of Perplexity. Perplexity Bixby. Your only.
God, I hope they don't name it that.
The Edge of Perplexity. I like big bats. I cannot lie. Hippie devs now working for the AI man. One UI 8, Samsung, or dang, son. Nice. Samsung
per Bixby.
Per Bixby.
That's even more cursed.
Oh boy. Form is a factor of time. Thin is in, or is it? It's the same, edge to edge. The phone foot drop test. I think that's funny, and also I'm sorry that you keep dropping phones on your foot. Samsung's green bubble edge party. The Android bubble on iOS. PayPal breaks up with Google Wallet. Perplexity is Samsung's Edge. Samsung has done it again. Android 16's trickle of bits and blobs. AT&T even has rugged phones. Who knew? Samsung S25 Edge. Bump interrupted. Embrace the green bubble. In love with your green bubble. Yeah, I'm kind of liking the living on the edge, living on the Samsung, on the Galaxy Edge. Living on the Galaxy Edge. It could be
living on the Galaxy Edge.
Halfway there.
Do you like that?
We're living on a prayer.
Living on a prayer.
I don't know why it makes me want to sing John Bon Jovi.
See, living on a prayer.
But take out the G from living.
Living
apostrophe on the Galaxy Edge.
Yeah.
Edge. Yeah.
Keep the slang.
That's closer to the song. Living on the Edge. Do either of you know the song? You probably don't. From Aerosmith's Comeback. I'm not going to play it because it's not good. But anyways, it's an Aerosmith song. Anyways, all right, there we go. Living on the Galaxy Edge is the title. Thank you, everybody, for participating with that. Thank you, everybody, for watching and for listening and for getting tired with us, because I'm suddenly very tired. But we got to do After Hours. So we're going to wrap this up and get over to After Hours so you have some fun extras to listen to if you're a patron. And that's it. Thank you, everybody. It's great hanging out with you. You're all awesome. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Good night, everyone.